Welcome to the April 5th, 2016 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. All selectmen are present. Our first item on the agenda is 6:30 PM. Package store / all alcoholic beverage license, Southborough Variety Corp., DBA Stony Brook Market. Mr. Purple,
Would you like me to read the hearing notice?
please.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the Mass General Laws, Southborough Variety Corp., doing business as Stony Brook Market. Salim Kassoff, manager, has applied for a package store, all alcohol beverages license on the premises located at 162 Corderville Road, number 100, Southborough, Massachusetts. Described as retail space, 2,400 square feet with entrance in the front, exit in the back. Public hearing will be held in the Thomas W. McAuliffe Hearing Room, second floor of the Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. On Tuesday, April 5th, 2016 at 6:30 PM. Board of Selectmen, Southborough Licensing Authority.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Come on up, sir, sit down, introduce yourself, welcome. That does not amplify, it records for the you're on television.
All right.
This is your,
Good evening. My name is Salim Kassouf. I'm the manager for the store. I would like to apply for all alcohol license. Currently, we have a beer and wine, and last year we applied for warrant during the annual meeting. It was approved last year by the town. We sent it to Boston. Apparently, they approved it, and I would like to kindly request to the board to grant me the license.
so you currently have an existing beer and wine license, correct?
Correct.
And you are applying to get an all alcohol license?
Correct.
Does any board member have any questions? Mr. Shea?
No questions.
Mrs. Faniff?
No question.
Mr. Kalenda?
None, sir.
Mr. Semino?
No.
Sir, I have no questions either. We've read the application. Any questions from the public? Not seeing any. Mr. Semino?
I move that we approve the package store / all alcoholic beverages license for Southborough Variety Corp., DBA Stony Brook Market, 162 Corderville Road.
Is there
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming and
Thank
apologize
thank
for
you
being
for
late.
your business in the town.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next item, pre-town meeting discussion. Mr. Coombs, welcome.
Thank you very much. So we were all up watching our Villanova Wildcats win last night.
Yes, well done.
We're all tired, so we'll try to be
I am
quick about
surprised you
this.
made it today.
This is our annual event where we have a pre-town meeting in order to go over the warrant and to see if there are any issues that we can start to focus on a week before we actually go live on a week from Monday. So I'm going to go through this warrant, and as we go through the articles, if any proponents are here, if they would like to speak to it, let me know in terms of if there's any proposed amendments, if there's any changes, if there's anything controversial. And this is really my chance to become aware of what is coming up on the town meeting floor. Our goal is to have the town meeting flow as smoothly as possible. Our goal is to have every interested citizen be at town meeting and speak to the things that they find of concern. But this is just my way of making sure I'm on top of what I have to do as moderator. So first, before the town meeting, Mr. Hagerty is town clerk. We have the Girl Scouts, I assume, this year. Thank you. And then we have we have a list of town employees and volunteers who have passed away. All right. And the Girl Scouts will be selling food in the lobby as well. Okay, great. This is your first year. I'll help you get tellers before the town meeting, and we swear them ahead of time. It's my goal, hopefully, to start at 7 o'clock sharp. I know there's presentations, Vanessa, by 3 different groups, is it?
I think the library has one, Board of Health probably has one. Library, Board of Health, and
The schools.
there are some other articles that will come up later in the evening. We're talking about articles at the very beginning of the night under reports of boards and committees. So I think there's probably just 3 in the beginning of the night.
Okay, any award, if anyone talks to you, any awards or presentations, so 5 minutes maximum.
Right.
Right at the beginning of the meeting, and it's my intention to have those as soon as I open up the meeting. Great. Okay, so if we can go through the warrant, that would be great. Just mention, you know, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3 are basically standard articles. And the Board of Selectmen, I guess, will tell me who's going to propose those, so I can,
You want
Make
to
a
know that
motion?
now?
I can know right now, it would be great.
Yeah, well, are we ready to do that now?
Sure.
Sure.
If anyone has a burning desire to do any particular article, please let Mr. Coombs know. Otherwise, I'm just going to assign them in random order and go right down the line.
Go for it.
So I will do Article 1, Mr. Semino will do Article 2, Mr. Kalenda will do Article 3, Mrs. Faniff will do Article 4. Article 5 is the Personnel Board, I believe.
Yes, sure is. Okay.
Okay.
Is anyone here from the Personnel Board? Joe, anything to anticipate, any changes to this, or any controversy, or?
The changes to the SAP are already marked in bold. I have them as notes in case someone asks something about it, but. So I have my notes on the things that have changed. The warrant contains all the things that are changed in bold, so people can see the words that were changed from year to year. And then Vanessa has an amended motion that I will say in order to add in one last change that didn't make it yet. That's
So
it.
there's
That's
going
it.
to be one amendment
Yeah,
on that?
yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. And any amendments, if anyone has an amendment that they know of before a spontaneous amendment, if you can let Mr. Hegarty and I have a copy of it prior to the meeting, that'd be really helpful. All right, so Josie, your committee's going to do that, which is great. That's Article 5. So we go to Article 6, which is multiple pages away. All right, page 16, Article 6. That's
That'll be Mr. Shea.
Mr. Shea.
I will jump back to Article 7.
Article 7, transfer of money. Okay, Mr. Rooney.
Mr. Semino will do number 8. Mr. Kalenda will do number 9.
Okay, back to Article 8 for a second. That's the town budget.
Okay.
So, Mr. Purple and that will do our usual, approach it our usual way, which is I'll read all the budget lines,
Yes.
and then we'll split the article. We'll take a vote on the ones that have no opposition or questions, pass those, and we'll go back individually and pass the ones that the holds on.
And before you go through those articles, I'll make a brief presentation on the town side of the budget.
Perfect.
And I'm understanding that Superintendent Johnson would then like to make a brief presentation on the school side of the budget.
Perfect.
So we'll handle all that up front. Maybe that'll help any holes that
Oh,
you may
that'd be
have
great.
in
And
the process.
advisory, you're going to have a presentation during the budget or prior to at the beginning of the meeting, or?
Sam,
Need a
can you
microphone?
go up to the microphone?
Sam Stivers, Advisory Committee member. We haven't actually talked about that specifically yet. We're going to do that Thursday night at our meeting. I think we're going to want to say a few words briefly, so, but not much. Thank you.
Great.
And
Okay.
so I'm gonna read the article, I'm gonna throw it back to you, that's it for me.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Moderator,
Okay,
just
that's
one,
Article 8, so that's Paul.
Mr.
I'm
Moderator,
sorry, yes, sir.
one other item. So under Article 8, just so you know, there will be a hold on the capital department.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a reduction, okay, in that line item. That reduction is reflected in the motion you have in front of you.
It is, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
But there will be a hold that will be put on that. We'll ask one of the board members to hold that, so we can reduce that line item.
Okay, are you aware of any other holds that people might be anticipating, or?
It's the only one I'm aware of in the budget,
Okay.
okay?
All right, so Article 8 is Mr. Semino, and then we'll go through that. Article 9,
That'll be Mr. Kalenda.
Mr. Kalenda, okay.
Article 10, Mrs. Faniff.
We're gonna use the same process, right?
Same process.
The motion.
Okay,
As
yep,
the
same
budget.
process, same
Okay.
process. Article 11,
Mr. Shea.
okay.
Article 12, I will do that.
Okay, John, yep.
Article
13.
Article 13, appropriately, Mr. Semino.
Maybe I shouldn't.
And I also think Mr. Semino will do Article 14. I assume, Mr. Calenda, you don't have a problem with him doing that one as well?
None, sir.
Well, that's a CPC article. That's usually made by someone from CPC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's,
So Article 14 is a CPC.
Okay.
That begins a listing of the CPC articles.
Okay, so
No
that will
problem.
see-
I will tell you that, and I know that Freddie's not here, but she has said numerous times that their practice is to introduce the article and then, you know, throw it to whoever the proponent is. In this case, I believe that's Southborough Historic, and I
Does
don't see any of them here tonight.
Does Historic intend to give a presentation on 84 Main Street?
They're not here.
Not here.
I think a presentation will be made by somebody.
Yeah,
All right,
there'll be a
I'll-
presentation there.
Yeah,
on-
okay,
on
presentation there.
14.
So on that one, Vanessa, once you hear about their presentation, you let me know. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, 14, number 15.
That's CPC as well,
Okay,
as well as 16,
okay,
as well as 17,
okay.
as well as 18 and 19.
A busy night coming up.
Article 20, I would suggest, Mr. Calenda, that Mr. Shea do Article 20, just only insofar it relates to the Main Street pre-construction work, and he has been a member of that committee, so.
Shay?
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay.
There'll be a brief presentation to
Sure,
lead into
absolutely.
that as
Yep,
well.
absolutely.
Mr. Calenda, I'm not forgetting about you.
No problem, sir.
You can do Article 21.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Mrs. Faniff, Article 22.
Okay, 23, that aggregate load, electrical load.
It's you.
Well, see, I wanted to do 24, 25, and 25, and 26 with regards to the public way issues.
Right.
But they may be planning board articles, are they not?
24 and 25 are selectmen articles.
Selectmen articles.
26 is planning board
So
article.
maybe you do those two, Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, and Mr. Semino, you do 23?
Okay.
I will do 24 and 25.
All right,
26 is planning board? Don, is that correct?
26 is, yes.
on the public way acceptances, is there any controversy, or are everybody on board with what the proposals are?
The Killam Farm, 26.
Yeah, the Killam Farm, as far as I know, everyone, DPW, Open Space, Planning Board, we're all good to go on that one.
What about 24? Which is William Caleri.
Sorry, I had them backwards.
Okay.
The William Caleri, DPW, Open Space, Planning Board, good to go.
25?
Fox Hill.
Fox Hill.
There's a, not we, but the developer and the Open Space Commission are apparently trying to get a site walk done between now and Monday, so that the Open Space Commission will have put eyes on the condition of the open space and then render their opinion. The Planning Board, relative to Fox Hill, is good to go. We're fine with that, and as far as I know, DPW is, but Open Space still needs to put eyes on it. That's what they want to do, and I believe, I was just told that there's things in motion to have that happen before next Monday.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Morris, if you know, it's my understanding, and I may be incorrect, but Article 25, with regards to Fox Hill Drive, does not involve the developer giving back open space to the town. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Before are we done with 26 as well?
No, 26 will be planning board, correct?
So, Mr. Rooney's going to do 24 and 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
26 is Planning Board.
Yep.
So, either myself or a voluntold will do it.
Okay.
So,
Planning Board.
I just want to make sure before we go on to 27, I got to circle back on one thing. So,
Okay.
if we're done with 26, Ms. Gillespie, I actually since you came into the room, I wanted to go back to 14, which is, that's all right. I read your mind, so just tell us how you want to handle that in terms of who makes the motion and then what happens.
Can you wait a second? 14, is that for
The money,
for Main Street?
That-
Yes, can you take the mic?
The CPC makes the motion, but I'm assuming that you'll be asking to discuss both 13 and 14 at the same time? Is that normally?
We do go together.
Frankly, I'm not sure. I'll,
You
you know,
can't really
take
have
some
one without
advice
the
on
other.
that before Tuesday, but let's assume they're separate, then.
Well, then, typically what the CPC does with all of our projects, we read the warrant article, and if there's any presentation to be made, it's done by the project proponent. So we'd expect the Historical Commission and/or working with the Board of Selectmen to do that presentation if one's needed.
All right, so that confirms what
Okay.
I understood. We kind of said that when you were out of the room, but we just wanted to come back and
Can you go
confirm
back
that.
to the ones, I think, I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. The other projects for the CPC is,
well, we have assigned the CPC to remove Articles 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
and then depending on the temperature of town meeting, there may be presentations on those.
On all of them?
No, just on the, all of the projects. The library,
Let me see if I understand. Are there going to be independent presentations on articles, I'm sorry. I
No,
should-
go ahead,
I-
Sean. No, you're
well,
asking the same questions I have.
Articles 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
not 16, maybe on 17, 18.
So I'll ask just a question. I know they're very small dollar amounts, not that any dollar amount is insignificant, but are you foreseeing some opposition to any of these that would require a presentation?
No, but what I said was that depending on the temperature in town meeting, we always ask our project applicants to be prepared to present their project if it seems to be needed. Normally, we just say, let it go to vote, but if questions and, comments seem to indicate it, that they could be prepared to present. We prefer they don't unless it's needed.
Yeah.
But you need to be prepared, because I don't know about you, but I've been at town meeting where the smallest dollar amount
Right.
makes it a 3-night meeting, because that's
Right.
what got the
But
discussion.
proactively, you're not going to have a.
No,
Perfect.
proactively, we recommend let it go to vote,
Yep.
but if needed,
I'm
be
sure you have plenty
prepared.
of facts available, and, if people start asking questions, but sometimes
You need
less
to be
is more.
prepared just in case.
Perfect.
All right,
27.
then we'll go back to, Mr. Rooney, go back to Article 27, right?
I just wanted to,
Yes.
I wasn't sure if we were finished with 26. 26, maybe, we have a request from the owner of the property to pull that article. And as recently as a few hours ago, we were trying to get some updated information on that, which we hope to have by next Monday. So this is one of those ones that might come down to the wire, as far as pulling the article or not, depending on the commitment that we get and the information that we get from the current property owner of that open space. Just letting you know.
Question on, just going back to 13 and 14, since you don't, they go together, I presume. So are they being read 13 and 14, and then one vote? Are the separate votes, but they're going to be, they're tied together, clearly.
Right, they're separate votes. you know, we can combine for purposes of discussion. I have to look at it a little closer, but you
That's
can
the-
probably certainly do that. And then if you have separate votes on articles.
That's my suggestion, is that,
It's up to the moderator, you can consolidate the discussion that you said, and then both require a separate.
Aldo.
that's fine.
But where it's the same issue, you might as well talk about
I
the same.
completely agree, because you can't really vote on one without having a discussion on the price on the other.
So it'll be a motion to combine for purposes of discussion.
Okay.
So,
right.
hold on, so because because the two motions are made by separate,
Right.
how do we get them out both on the floor before we move to combine
Well,
them?
we'll move Article 13, and then
Yes.
we'll make a motion to combine with Article 14 for purposes of
So
discussion.
I'll do that as
Only
well.
them, but with the understanding that they're going to be voted separately.
Understood.
I mean, I think you have to discuss both at the same time. They're
Agreed.
at the same time, so.
Yep.
You're right about that. Okay, we go to Article 27, I believe.
I'm sorry, Freddie had a question?
Yeah, yes.
So just to be clear, the selectmen read Article 13, and then the Community Preservation Commission does Article 14.
You're talking about
And then you-
moving Article 13, and then, so that's on the floor once we do that. And then, because Article 14's, you know, intertwined with it, then what we need to do, we'll just make, I'll give you the language if you want it, but you're gonna make a motion to combine for purpose of discussion. You'll discuss it, but then they have to be legally voted separately.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I was out of the room.
That will save time also, and rather than go through the whole presentation again, that will be more efficient for the people to understand the issue.
All right, just to get the sequence down, David. I'm moving Article 13.
Right.
As soon as I make the motion and there's a second, do we then have CPC make their motion on 14? And then there's a motion to combine?
Yeah, what you can do is you'll make a motion. I have to look at the book, but I believe
Okay.
you make a motion to combine.
It's,
As soon as, we have to have one on the floor in order to discuss anything, and then once one's on the floor, then we'll make a motion to combine.
so we're moved to combine before the second one's on the floor, and then I presume we bring the second one to the floor at that point.
He's got, there is
In fact,
language
you
for
are
it.
bringing
Check the book.
It actually is pretty.
Freddie, we'll collaborate on that day. Let's keep going.
All right, we'll work on that one. Article 27.
Okay, so that is tied into the green communities efforts. And what I intend to do is make a motion to flip with Article 28 and
Okay.
move 28 ahead of 27. Because my understanding is that Mr. Geyer was going to present the stretch code. And he is very well versed in the green communities, the benefits to the town. And the solar bylaw is really, you know, a component, I think, sort of an easier one to explain. And therefore, it might be smoother to have Article 28 go ahead first.
What would you say about Mr. Geyer if he was here?
Mr. Guy knows, he would only say nice things about me. I have a short presentation that introduces the town meeting to the Green Communities Program, because I'm sure most of them won't know what it is and what the motivation is for these two articles, right? So I do a very short presentation of what it is, what the benefit to the town is in terms of money, right? And other towns that have benefited, how much money they've gotten from the program, how much money we can get from the program, and then talk briefly about the stretch code and how it's not as big a deal as it used to be. That's, you know, in 10 words or less, right? And then also just to talk briefly about Article 27, right? About the as of right, right? And then hopefully we can get the planning board to support that, and then we can move along with both articles, if that's okay with everybody.
So the intent is to move 28 before 27.
Right.
Yeah, to get the stretch code.
Yeah, so you're going to
voted
make a
on first,
motion,
yeah.
right, to move the article forward to
Yep.
get to that point in the.
If that's okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Are you planning to give a report at the beginning of town meeting on this article that's coming up?
I could do that, or I could do it just before the two articles, whatever would be more appropriate. It might work better just before the two articles, because it'd be fresher in people's minds, you know, because the time may go by, and then we'll get a, you know, people will forget what I said.
So what you can do, you have two choices. If you want to do, if you would like to discuss Article 28 before 27, you can make a motion to move Article 28 before Article 27, or you can make a motion to take Article 27, postpone it to a time definite or time certain, which would occur after the presentation and the vote on Article 28. So you have a multiple choice here, so it doesn't matter to me which way you do it. But I'd be happy to talk to you about it before the meeting if you want to
Yeah.
talk about it.
What I'll probably make the motion to
Okay.
move Article 28 ahead of Article 27.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, my intent is to do a presentation on the solar bylaw, the map of the area.
How long is your
affected.
presentation?
5 minutes.
Perfect, okay.
It'll work well, because my presentation will lead right into his. So
Yeah.
just-
Okay.
Well, but we're gonna do, so you're gonna do your presentation, they're gonna vote on 28.
Yep.
Then my presentation and vote on 27.
Okay. And now, call me and we'll talk about the logistics of what you'd like to
Okay.
do. Okay.
Mr. Guy, do you have a presentation available yet? That
Yeah, I did. I emailed, I think Mark got a copy of it. I sent it out yesterday.
I think I forwarded it to you, but I'll forward it again.
Microphone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do have a copy already. I have a draft of the talking points. I haven't dressed it up to make it look good yet, but I do that, and I reviewed it with Kelly Brown, who's the regional coordinator, and she gave me positive feedback. So I will send it to you so you can see what's in it. That's no problem.
Well, does it discuss clearly the benefits of becoming a green community, and are there any mandates required of the town that the residents need to know about?
What I've done is I've addressed it to the two articles that are in front of the town meeting. I thought about this for a while, and if we go into the other requirements, if I start talking about those, I'll get a lot of questions, and the presentation will turn into 20 minutes to a half an hour by the time I'm done. So I think if I just stick with the articles before the town meeting and just say that we need these articles in order to facilitate us becoming a green community, I think we can leave it at that, because I think the other things are in the hands of the Board of Selectmen. I think that.
But are there links to whatever that other information is that you may not be
I have a
discussing?
handout. I have a handout that has
Perfect.
all that information in it. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Guy.
Okay.
Is
Right.
it gonna require any, to be projected onto a screen at town meeting? Because if any of that needs to be done, somebody needs to coordinate this with Vanessa. They have. Okay, so maybe we don't need handouts.
So we're in 20,
That's okay.
Yeah, the handouts are kind of detailed, and so it's more of an informational piece of paper rather than a
27 is
presentation.
that was Board of
Thank you, Carl.
Selectmen's article, all right?
27? No, that's planning board.
Zoning
That's
bylaw.
plain, that's Mr. Morris or whoever, okay?
Oh, Mr. Stein on 27.
All right. And 28, we go back to 28, that's Board of Selectmen. All right,
So
That's
who's reading the
Mr.
guy?
Guy.
Yeah.
I'll read that.
okay.
Which one?
The stretch code is,
28.
It's, Dan.
Is
It's
it
a
proposed by
board-
us, though?
Right, so John's gonna read it and then I'll pass it.
Got it.
to Carl.
That's the energy code, all right, 20,
9.
where's 29? 29, okay, yep.
Grab the fancy green copy.
Mr. Morris?
But Mr. Morris, you 29?
Yes.
Anything controversial about that, or do you have a presentation or anything, or?
This is, the answer to the first question is yes, and the answer to the second is no, but the presentation part of it would be to call on the town council to advise the voters in the same way that he has advised the planning board on this.
All right, good. Article 30, I see, is the planning board also.
30 has to do with the Preservation Trust. That one is still in motion. Right now, we plan to bring it forward. Things may change between now and next Monday. We're working on that and advise you accordingly. It'll either be brought forward as is or pulled.
All right, Article 31, Board of Selectmen.
So 31 involves a discussion, I believe, should involve a discussion relative to surplus buildings in town and this board's vision as to where we're going. Does anyone have a desire to do that? If not,
What if we read the motion and the detail be provided by the facilities manager and town administrator as to the use of the building?
Mrs. Fana, if you will read the motion then, Article 31?
Glad to.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
You
Fana.
have a thing ready to go on that, Mark? You and John?
We will.
Thank you.
Okay, Article 31 is Mrs. Fana. Article 32,
I believe that's Mr. Guyer.
Mr. Dyer.
Mr. Guyer, is that correct? Green? Or,
That's going to be you again. Okay, perfect.
okay, the Green,
Right.
no.
Article 33, Town Clerk. That's you, Mr. Hagerty? All right. All right,
Mr. Hegarty is going to designate someone to do it on his behalf.
because you're going to be, okay, you're going to have someone from you, okay. Article
Did I hear,
34.
is there gonna be a presentation? Oh, there's not, no need, right? Good.
Article 34, the same thing? All right. Nothing controversial in those, right? Article 35, Town Clerk again. Okay. 36, Town Clerk. All right. And 37 is Ms. Houlihan.
The last three are.
Okay. Is Marnie here?
No.
All right. I'll talk to her, and she'll be presenting those, I guess. Town Council, if you and I can get together at some point about the quantity of vote, to make sure I have everything down, that would be great. Anything else that I need to be aware of, or we need to be aware of before we go to town meeting? Mrs. Main?
Sorry, I was out.
Janet, use the microphone.
Is this on? Okay, I was out of the room at the beginning of the discussion. I'd like to have Kathy Cook make a quick presentation at the beginning. We had a subcommittee of advisory this fall looking at our debt capacity, looking at the safety building. And they came up with some interesting information, not only on our capacity for debt, but on our ongoing increase of budget and heading towards the state limit. I haven't got the terminology correct. So quick presentation on that in the beginning, just to show state of the state. Okay.
All right. Well, everyone, I guess, well, Selectmen, we're all set.
Yes.
Mr. Purple, we'll see you Monday night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David. No, because we're going to send it to him for his review. Yeah, he can leave.
Free to go.
I'd like to try to get this done once. So I'm going to move it as quick as I can, and I'm sure David will too. Whose attention? Yeah, okay.
So you took this and wanted to...
Yeah, right. All right, we're still in session here. Mr. Purple, Town Administrator report.
Yeah, I have nothing this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Okay.
you.
No, we'll come back to that. Consent agenda, 3 items. Mr. Semino?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve Mass DOT de minimis impact determination for the town common.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll skip down and move that we accept the letter of intent to retire from Maureen Cleary and David Hagan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just in terms of further discussion, I am compelled just to comment on both individuals, so I'd ask the board to indulge me for a moment. Ms. Caleri, as you know, comes from a family dedicated to Southborough, including her husband's the town's electrical inspector. She's worked for the town since October of 1985, first working for the ZBA and then as the purchasing agent for the town. And then whoever the selectmen were, when she first joined the selectmen's office, they realized what a star she was. As people may or may not know, her long list of duties, and it is indeed a long list, includes the town report, formatting the entire budget for town meeting, managing dozens, perhaps more than dozens, of committee appointments, and she's the liaison with our insurance company for all medical, property, and vehicular claims. In addition to all that, which is a full-time job in and of herself, she manages the complex process of getting liquor licenses approved and works with and through the state agencies which govern them. To say that her organization, knowledge of historical information, and perfectionism is going to be missed is perhaps the understatement of the evening. And on behalf of this board, we obviously recognize the dedication and commitment that she's given the town, and she will be sorely missed. I am told that despite our efforts to somehow to get her up here, she will not come up here. So I will speak about her, or I have spoken about her in absentia. With regards to Mr. Hagan, for those of you who know Mr. Hagan, he came to the Southborough Police Department 2 years before Ms. Caleri. That was in the fall of 1983. And for nearly, or for over 3 decades, actually 33 years, he's been one of the department's most reliable police officers. And he's been nothing short of loyal. Looking through his file, there are countless letters in his file that talk about his ability and his attitude of going above and beyond. In '84, he completed the police academy, where he was the president of his class. And also in that same year, despite doing all that, he received his Juris Doctorate from New England School of Law. Even with all that, he did more. He serves in the U.S. Naval Reserve as a commanding officer, and in his spare time, which is hard to believe that anyone has a spare time with that type of resume, he's assumed a new role as an adjunct professor at Northeastern Universities in the Homeland Security degree program. A tremendous guy, a terrific professional, and someone that the community will be missed. But in our last gasp effort to maintain some of Officer Hagan's involvement with our community, he intends to seek appointment in the department as a reserve officer. So he'll continue to serve the department on an as-needed basis. So, again, 2 long-time, dedicated, committed employees, both of whom we have the displeasure of reading their intent to retire letters within the last week. And on behalf of this board, we obviously thank them. We will miss them, and we certainly wish them best in the next 30 to 40 years of what they choose to do to and beyond that. So I just wanted to interrupt you, Mr. Semino, and just give that short announcement on behalf of both employees.
Well said, Mr. Chairman.
So with that, all in favor?
Aye. Move to approve the meeting minutes of January 5, 2016.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
In terms of other matters properly before the board, we're already talked about assignment of annual town meeting warrant articles. The next item is the host agreement for ComCan, I'm sorry. Let me try to frame that discussion a bit. This board assigned Selectman Shea and myself to meet with the applicant and the applicant's counsel and to discuss initially the letter of non-opposition, which I believe Mrs. Faniff also participated in a meeting with them, and then to negotiate a host agreement with them. As most of you know, a host agreement is not a requirement for these businesses operating in town. The ZBA, in its 10 special conditions, appropriately indicated that this was a condition of the issuance of its special permit. I believe there are at least 14 items that I'd like to discuss. There are not like 14 items, there are 14 items that I would like to point out that the Selectman Shea and myself have negotiated an agreement in principle with ComCan. Now, the very first opening condition, it talks about the purpose of the agreement being to assist the town in addressing any public health, safety, and other effects or impacts the operation may have in the town. I also should let you know that we have worked with the school superintendent who has reviewed the agreement, and she's also offered her comments on the agreement with a slight revision, which I will discuss in a moment. I also sent the agreement to Ms. Houlihan in an effort to reach out to the Clifford Road residents, and I was hoping to get some positive feedback. And what I got back was what I would call a objection to the overall agreement, and indicating, quote, as elected officials of our town, your obligation as BOS members to represent your community and not ComCan. After a read-through this contract, it is evident that you are not, capital N-O-T, representing the best interests of our town. So in terms of the 14 points that I would like to address, the applicant, or ComCan, has agreed to a taxation component. As you know, they are a nonprofit, and under the laws of this state, I believe at least from the 1790s, such corporations are exempt from taxation. ComCan has agreed in this draft agreement to pay real and personal property taxes throughout the time that this agreement is in place. So they're going to continue to pay property taxes. Additionally, they will agree in this agreement to hire local qualified employees. In addition to direct hiring, they're obligated to work in good faith to hire local vendors, suppliers, contractors, and builders from the Southborough area. In addition, the town has hiring protections. ComCan is required to provide the town, for prior approval, personnel information of the proposed on-site manager of the facility. They also authorize the town, in consultation with the police chief, to perform a criminal record history check or a Corey check. This process will also apply to any change of on-site manager. In addition, they're required to participate in cooperation with the police department to prepare a traffic management plan. This plan is going to include the preferred routes for accessing the facility, and copies of this traffic management plan are going to be given to all patients. In addition, I believe it was at the suggestion and request of Mrs. Faniff, discharge and pickup of our passengers is not allowed within any portion of Route 9. In addition, ComCan is required to maintain a cooperative relationship with the Southborough Police Department. Now, this is include, but it is not limited to, and that's important, periodic meetings to review operational concerns, cooperation in investigations, and immediate communications to the Southborough Police of any suspicious activities at or around the location. In addition, ComCan is required to work with the Southborough Police Department to implement a comprehensive diversion prevention plan to prevent diversion. If you read this paragraph in the way that Mr. Shea and I proposed this to ComCan, the town dictates the diversion plan, not ComCan. We can put anything in a diversion plan, and ultimately ComCan agrees to it, that's the plan. There are indications or identifications of various activities within the diversion plan, but those are at a minimum. Therefore, the town controls the complete diversion plan relative to this facility. The agreement will be renegotiated on a 3-year basis. ComCan wanted a 5-year basis. We pushed back and said, no, we're gonna do it on a 3-year basis, and it can be terminated at the sole discretion of the town. If the state legalizes recreational marijuana, this agreement is renegotiated in full. This agreement no longer survives. In addition, ComCan cannot assign or transfer this agreement without the consent of the town. With regards to financial contributions, Selectman Shea and I, we reviewed numerous other host agreements, and we culled out portions of the agreement, and in addition to those portions, we also added additional financial benefits to the town. In particular, ComCan is going to pay to the town 3% of its annual gross revenue up to $500,000 for retail sales beginning 1 year after the facility opens. You may say, why then? Well, we need them to get up, they need to get up and running, and after their 1-year period of time, they will pay us 3% of their annual gross revenue. Well, I've heard, well, it's a cash business. How do we verify their cash? That's in the agreement. In terms of verifying the gross revenues, ComCan is required to provide the town with copies of its financial filings to the Department of Public Health documenting its gross revenues, and it's also a copy of its annual filing as a nonprofit to the Massachusetts Office of Attorney General. In addition, ComCan is required to make a one-time payment to the town of $50,000 1 year following its opening. This payment erodes the $500,000. That was all that ComCan was willing to give the town. At that point, Selectman Shea and I went back and we said, no, we want more than one $50,000 payment. So now they were going to pay the town $50,000 every year that they are in operation. This is where the superintendent of schools chimed in on the agreement, and she asked, and I believe it is appropriate amendment, rather than having the wording that is in paragraph 3, the wording from the superintendent is this: operator shall make additional annual payments to town of $50,000 beginning 2 years following the sales commencement date. And this is the change she made. Which payments shall be used to fund school substance abuse and mental health programs to establish prevention and intervention education and awareness. Therefore, on a yearly basis, we will use $50,000, or we will secure $50,000 from ComCan for the superintendent to implement the programs that she thinks is important in her facilities relative to prevention and intervention programs. Those are the 14 points that Selectman Shea and I negotiated with ComCan. They have agreed to all of them in principle, and it is now time for this board to discuss those terms and determine whether or not we shall ratify this agreement. With the following caveat: it will be ratified contingent upon review of town council. He has not yet reviewed it. The only final comment I will make is in paragraph 12. Superintendent Johnson asked that it also include the word "a school resource officer." So that's where we're at. We are presenting this to the full board for discussion, and I will open it up for discussion. Mr. Semino.
Actually, John, could I ask one clarification question first? On paragraph 3, with the revised language that was proposed by Superintendent Johnson.
Yes.
Is that in addition to where the paragraph continues with?
No, I'm sorry.
The police department?
No, the rest of that is crossed off. Here is Superintendent Johnson's revisions in red for the board, and I have some for the public as well. So what I read earlier, Brian, was the entirety of paragraph 3 after review by the superintendent, she would request that we consider and make that revision. Mr. Semino?
I have two points or suggestions to make, both with regard to the town's control of the agreement itself. So, there were a couple of points in the future where certain things happen. One is that after 3 years, the agreement is subject to renegotiation. The other point is that if and when the state ever approves recreational marijuana use, the agreement is subject to renegotiation. I would suggest that, to the extent it is not extremely clear, that I would suggest that in both of those instances, the reopening of the agreement or the renegotiation of the agreement be at the town's option only, such that if, despite the passage of 3 years, or despite, for whatever reason, the passage of recreational marijuana, we feel like we're gonna do better the way it is than if we were to reopen, we have the option to keep it in place.
Do you not think it says that in there?
I don't think it's clear.
Okay.
I think, for example, the 3-year reopen is just mandatory. It says we'll reopen this in 3 years. I'd like to say we reopen it if the town, at the town's option, we'll reopen it in 3 years.
Okay.
And therefore, it would, it would not be automatically reopened. It would only be reopened if we thought we'd do better. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, and again, I think our reasoning, our thought process, at least mine, in wanting to have that 3-year limit on it is we have no real idea how this is gonna play out 3 years from now. What other facilities may come along in this town, other towns, and this would give us the opportunity then, if there was an opportunity to better this deal for ourselves, we wanted them to have to come to the table after 3 years and
Yeah.
renegotiate.
So obviously, I wasn't making myself clear, because that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying we can force them to come back to the table, but they can't force us. So it's at our option that we reopen at 3 years, but not theirs. I think that addresses what you're saying, Brian.
I guess I'm not quite getting that concept, so.
Let's figure
let's
out
go to
where,
the audio tape.
where
Is
you're
it-
talking, Mr. Semino, where were you talking in the agreement?
Well, you read, I don't know which number paragraph it is off the top of my head. I
This
think it's a
agreement
matter of a
shall be-
couple of words, John. Let me
Okay.
just take a look. This says, "This agreement shall be reopened for negotiation on the first day of the 3rd year," blah, 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 blah. All I would say is, at the beginning of the sentence, say, "at the town's option," comma.
Okay, anyone have a problem with that?
That's it. And
That-
it
yeah,
just
I mean-
means it's not automatic, it's only if we think we can do better.
But I don't know, okay, so that, but you're tying that in with recreational use.
No, okay, so that's one, I just have the same comment for both things. I don't mean to, we could do one or the other,
No,
or neither.
The recreational use provision comes later.
No, I know, I said, I have the same comment for each of the two, but, okay, they're separate provisions. I have the same comment for each.
Okay, so in paragraph 11,
Yes,
you would insert, if I may,
yes.
Mr. Purple, may I mock up your copy here?
We still have to vote on it, but it's a suggestion.
This agreement shall be reopened for negotiations, insert, at the sole discretion of the town, right?
I would put that phrase at the front of the sentence.
Okay. And then to Mr. Calendar's point with regards to paragraph,
So I've actually got 9 sections I want to go through.
Yeah, let me
so,
just-
but,
No, but you commented on my second point, so I think that's what he's.
yeah,
no, my whole point on, I guess on section 11, I don't know what that really gains us. I mean, it's a renegotiation, whether or not we ask for it, or, if they don't have the ability to ask for it, I mean, we're the ones.
what
I
that
don't
gets
know.
us, what that gets us is if during that 3-year time period, there are there are host agreements which are more favorable to towns than what this one is, then we can go and get those more favorable terms.
So we can do that with the way it presently reads.
Yeah, but conversely, if the trend is less favorable, we don't have to expose ourselves to that. We
But-
can
but-
continue with what we have.
Sure, but there's no reason why it can't be opened up for negotiation. It doesn't mean we're gonna agree to anything, but so I don't know what that actually gains us.
I don't know how to make it
All right,
more
let
clear.
me, I understand your
I
objection,
do these
Mr.
all the
Kalenda.
time. I think you do as well. It doesn't gain us anything.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Not yet.
Open meeting?
We're not,
Okay, sorry.
not yet. We will go to the public after the board has gone through this. So, Mr. Kalenda, you're objecting to at the sole discretion of the town?
I don't know what it gains us. I don't think it hurts us, but it doesn't gain us anything.
Okay. So we'll leave that for a vote. Mr. Semino, the second point is in what paragraph?
The one that indicates that if recreational use became law,
13?
the agreement would reopen automatically.
Mr. Shea, that's your paragraph. Can you suggest where that we would put that language if you're good with that?
So I don't think I don't interpret that to mean that if recreational marijuana is legalized, this automatically reopens. Again, the first sentence is clear that this agreement only applies to a registered medical dispensary as the regulations currently exist, period. That's all that they're allowed to do. It is, and we have no idea if this is what's going to happen in the fall with respect to this. So,
I'm sorry, Brian. I think 13 contemplates that nothing else changes. If recreational use is legalized, then we have to renegotiate this agreement. I would suggest that our protections are much broader than that. They don't even have a special permit for recreational sale.
Right.
So renegotiating this agreement is a small piece of the hoops they would have to jump through in that instance. I think I know what you were going for there. But again, anytime the agreement calls for reopening or renegotiation, I just think it should be at the town's option only. I don't think that's hard to understand.
Well, all right, forgive me if, I think I have a pretty darn good understanding of this, Mr. Semino.
Fair enough.
Okay? So, and I won't be schooled on it. So, the section about recreational use, why is there even discussion about recreational use in this document? End the
point.
sentence after end the paragraph after the first sentence.
It's a fair, separate point, absolutely.
So take out everything after
Everything.
the citation. I'm sorry, Mrs. Fanoff?
End it at 105 CMR 725.
Okay.
Or you might say, nothing in this agreement shall be construed as pertaining in any way to recreational. That'll be the subject of, a separate regime if and when the time comes, but I'm not trying to wordsmith it to
No,
that
I would,
extent here.
I
But
mean,
you know what I'm
I would
saying.
end it after that first sentence, and we could go even further, which I would suggest to make that affirmative statement, that nothing in this document allows for any, use and, for any recreational use, and
Right.
I mean, you can leave it at that. I wouldn't even say that would be subject to separate negotiation, because I'm not so sure that the town is looking to have recreational use facility in the town of Southborough.
so,
I don't disagree with that.
So we would keep this last sentence though then, Dan, correct?
I'm sorry, Jen?
You would keep the last sentence in paragraph 13.
Would you read that to me? I got an older draft I'm looking at here. Yes.
Yes? Dan?
Correct.
Right. So we'll strike out from if all the way down to the sentence that begins with nothing. Right?
Correct.
Done. Mr. Kalenda?
Okay.
Is that all you had, Mrs.
That's all I had. I don't know,
Yep.
did we resolve on 11 or no?
Well, we'll come back on that.
Okay.
So, can you give us more background on the 3%? And and why that's not upfront, and why is there not a not to exceed 500,000 figure when, you know, why shouldn't that just continue? And why wouldn't the funds be, any payment be provided upfront? Because we've got upfront costs, I think, that we would want to see made available immediately for those educational benefits that Superintendent Johnson was talking about.
Well, I'll speak to it, and then I'll let Ms. Selectman Shea. I mean, a couple things. First of all, no other business in town do we require them to give us any percentage of their gross revenues. That's number one. Number two, 3% of the gross revenues up to and including 500,000 was, I believe, Mr. Shea can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the, if not the richest ones that we reviewed. Having them to give it from day one of their operations is, at least to me, it seems somewhat unreasonable, given the fact that they've not generated any revenue from the operation of the facility. To make them make a payment on day one seems somewhat punitive in nature, rather than something that is reasonably related to the operation of the facility. Those are my, I'd ask that Mr. Shea add anything else in addition to that.
Yeah, my opinion's consistent on that. I thought, with respect to the one-year delay, I thought that they made a strong case for the money that they will need to invest into this facility to get the business up and running, and that they would be in a better position to ensure proper payments to the town with having 1 year of operation under their belt, and that they could be a better business partner for us.
So are we to assume then that they are not, they do not presently have the funding available to get a business up and running?
No, they do have it. I mean,
So if they do have it, then why wouldn't they be able to make a payment up front? And if not day one, clearly I can understand that, right, Mr. Rooney? I mean, you make a good point. They don't have those funds available yet. I don't know what their balance sheet says. Maybe actually they do. We should ask them. If they have it available now, they should pay it now, because we do
What
have
is it that they're going to pay, though? We don't know what 3% of their gross revenue
Well,
is going to be.
3%, but we also have $50,000 up front, and then we have additional payments that would be coming, but my understanding, many of those payments are coming in arrears. Why couldn't they be paid up front?
Well, they're not coming in arrears. After the first year that they operate here, they pay us 3% of their total gross revenues. So after 12 months, they're paying the town 3% of their gross revenues. In addition to that, after 1 year, they're paying us $50,000. In addition to that, after 1 year, they're paying us another $50,000.
We know
So they're just, if I could just finish, after year one, they're paying us $100,000 plus 3% of their gross revenues up to $500,000. I think that is a substantial payment to the town when you consider paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 together.
Is that payment, though, in arrears or applying to year two?
It's applying to no, the first payment is due at year one, $50,000.
No, I'm talking about the first 3% payment. When is it made, and to what block of revenue is it applied?
12 months from the date of commencement of sales.
So at the end of 12 months, they're going to look back 12 months and cut us a check for 3%?
Yes.
All right, so that
Couldn't
speaks to you.
why couldn't they do that on a monthly basis, starting after the first month?
Well, they report, I don't believe they report to the Department of Health on a monthly basis in terms of accounting, but what we agreed to is what was standard in the industry in these host agreements in terms of yearly accounting. I think it's onerous to ask them to do it on a monthly basis.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that as much revenue coming into the town early, I would ask that we negotiate that with them to ensure that we do have funds available for those educational courses that our superintendent is looking to institute.
So what we can do, we can ask them is that their first payment of the $50,000 in paragraph 3 be made within a period of time less than 1 year. I mean, day one to me seems a bit unreasonable.
Unless they have it. Yeah, I don't know how wealthy this entity is, if, you know.
Why don't we have their first $50,000 payment under paragraph 3 be made within the first 6 months? Will that address your concerns?
No.
Not yet. Oh, Bonnie?
I mean, the superintendent of schools is trying to be proactive here, and I think the applicant would understand that since we all participated in the discussions. I don't have a problem asking for $15,000 the day that they open.
1.5?
15,000 on number 3,
Okay.
to implement some of the school programs on drug
Getting that.
education. And then the balance of it, I'm not really that concerned about it, but I think, in fairness, the superintendent needs upfront money to start these programs, or at least initiate a program, before this even opens.
Okay, we can go back to them, say 15,000, day one.
But if I may, could we ask the superintendent in advance of that, what amount she would be covering? I mean, 15,000 may or may not be the right number if she says.
I'm just throwing it out as a
Right.
number. I think we need to
John,
have
could
something
we
up.
ask her then what she would need? If you were able to receive payment up front, what amount would she like to see up to $50,000 within the first 3 months?
We can ask them, they may not agree, we can ask her, the question is, will they agree to it?
Agreed.
Because, just so you know, they were not, they pushed back hard on the paragraph 3 in its entirety. That paragraph, if you look at other agreements, in terms of an annual $50,000 payment, that was not something that they agreed to from the
Right.
get-go. So
Well, you know,
the
in-
history of negotiations is that we had to get them there at the first point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I don't know what the appetite in those other towns was to receiving a dispensary. So the appetite in the town of Southborough may be a little bit different. On the on-site,
Sorry, Dan.
are you tweeting this out, or? No. Okay. On the on-site manager approval, why would that not be a precondition to the execution of this, and not, the way it's presently constituted, I believe it's post-agreement? Why couldn't that be a condition to the agreement?
Where are you, what paragraph?
The on-site manager, let me go to that.
Paragraph 4?
I have my numbering right.
It says the person
Yes.
proposed to act as on-site manager, so proposed, that person's not the
But-
on-site manager.
Right, so I would presume that they would, before opening, they're gonna have an on-site manager. So this host agreement wouldn't become effective until, if we have any pre-approval of an on-site manager, or the conditions for that on-site manager, wouldn't we want to see that in advance of
So we can put
signing this?
operator shall provide to the town for review and pre-approval.
Correct.
Yep.
And then similarly, on the traffic management plan, shouldn't that also be a precondition to this and likely added as an exhibit? I would like to see that in advance of executing any host agreement, instead of just presuming that it will take place after the agreement.
Fair enough. So prior to the operation, a traffic management plan which will be attached as an exhibit to the host agreement.
Yes, and then
Yep.
similarly on the diversion plan. to
So
me,
that's something we want to work with the chief wants to work with. I assume we don't want to have them propose a diversion plan. I assume we want the chief to
That's right.
propose a diversion plan to them.
That's right, and wouldn't we want that as part of this agreement, added as an exhibit, negotiated in advance? There's, the way it's presently reads is, while there's a commitment to doing it, there's, having it done post-agreement seems to lose the teeth of getting the best agreement for the town. that
So we can
get.
say prior to opening.
Yes.
Yep, that makes sense. Diversion plan, yep.
There's discussion about if there's reimbursement by the state. Let me find that. I think that may be in 10. And I just wanted, can you give me more information as to why that would offset what their payments to us would be? Are they the exact type of, whether it's tax or whatever it might be coming in from the state? is there a direct offset of what otherwise would be coming in from this entity? Is that why that's in there?
Brian, do you know? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that.
We can ask them that.
Okay. John, that's all
Okay.
I may have a couple more comments, but those are the main ones
Mrs.
right now.
Faniff?
I'm all set. They've
Okay.
already been asked.
Mr. Shea?
No comments.
Okay, anyone free out in public have any comments? Mr. Bartolini?
Leo Bartolini, 62 Oak Hill Road, Chairman of the Zoning Board. In your discussion of the marijuana recreational thing, in our decision that was done by the planning board, it was voted that it would be not allowed at all.
What would not be allowed? The recreational?
Marijuana
That's a
recreational.
condition of the special permit.
Yeah, nothing at all. So if you people want to add to that or whatever, but just to clarify that you people know that our decision was very clear that it's not allowed at all. And the other thing that was very clear and similar to that was if some reason they decided they wanted to sell their business or move somebody else in, that they wouldn't be able to do that either without going in front of the town again for the board. So if they wanted to sell it to somebody else, they would have to refile in front of us to get it done properly.
That's in the agreement in terms of the
Yes.
transfer of the assignment. That's also in this agreement as well.
Right, so I just wanted you to,
It's in
thank you.
section 16.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Julie Connolly, 26 Oak Hill Road. I had a chance to look at the draft agreement, and I appreciate the discussion. I just have a couple more comments. One, I know you stated that the $500,000 cap on the 3% of gross revenues is one of the more generous when comparing, and that's great. But I'm wondering, do we have any idea on what their projected gross revenue is going to be? Because 3%, to get to $500,000, they would have to gross about almost $17 million. So do we have any idea what their projected income is going to be? Because if they're going to only gross $3 million, then we're not going to get anywhere near that $500,000. So do we consider that when we were making those calculations?
We do not know what their anticipated gross revenues are, but that's why the 3 years does give us an opportunity. If their gross revenues are, for all intents and purposes, insignificant, then we may want to increase that 3% after year 3. We just don't know what their income is going to be, but we put it at 3% up to a maximum of 500,000, but then we revisit it again in 3 years.
Do you think it makes sense to maybe have a base or maybe increase the $50,000 to?
You know, some
The
agreements
minimum?
have both a base and a ceiling. This one has both a base and a ceiling when you consider the $50,000 after year 1 and the other $50,000, which we're gonna ask for more contemporaneous with the opening. So we have both a ceiling and a base as well.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sure, and so that $50,000, just to be clear, is now earmarked for the school for very specific programs? And
The superintendent read the agreement, and she indicated, I believe, that she would like to have a program relative to the opioid addiction problem in the schools. And so, yes, the $50,000 is going to be designated specifically in this agreement and earmarked for that use.
And I certainly appreciate that, but do we necessarily want to I'm just not sure how much it benefits us to earmark it to narrow the scope of what we can do with that $50,000, although I absolutely think that's a great use for
Well,
it.
that's a great point, because my thought process was the same as yours, but then the superintendent's thought process was different, so I deferred to hers. You may recall in the first draft, I had more.
And I don't know if I've seen subsequent drafts. I think I only saw the
Yeah,
first draft. but-
the subsequent draft is a
Oh, yeah,
one-line
no,
change
yes, I'm
from the
sorry, yes.
superintendent.
Yeah, I did see that.
She requested that it be more specific in nature, and I just deferred to her on that.
And yeah, I do understand that, but if we're only going, so if that if that $50,000 base is earmarked for that very specific purpose, which is, I'm okay with that purpose, but then if we're not getting the benefit of the 3% right away, and 2, we have no idea what that 3% is gonna be, what other benefit is the town getting financially from this? I mean, I think it's being pitched as something that's going to be financially beneficial to the town, but I'm just wondering if we're considering all the full picture of the financial impact.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I believe that's what Mr. Kalenda and Mrs. Faniff talked about relative to the payments being more contemporaneous with their opening.
And we're not sure what that number would be that the superintendent would require for her program that she wants to set up for the school.
But if it's the
No,
way
I didn't throw, I said a number.
Yeah,
Whatever,
Yeah, but it looks, the way I'm reading it is that money specifically earmarked, and then we presumably wouldn't be able to use it for anything else.
So that's a good point. So should it be revised to, maybe used towards, I mean, the monies are coming into the town, yes?
Right.
And then is it up to the town to dole that out as the town sees
Well,
fit?
the reality is that while we've been discussing this, so much has been made of the schools and the school-age children that I thought, and perhaps I was wrong, but I thought it made sense to have the schools and the superintendent weigh in on the use of the funds for these school programs. So therefore, by designating it specifically to the schools, she or he or whomever at the school committee perhaps, has control of that money to allocate it to those school children concerns, as opposed to it coming to the Board of Selectmen and then perhaps not having any defined parameters and using it in some other nature. Now, maybe these 5 people will certainly delegate it to that particular use. 5 people that replace us may not. But I do think earmarking it specifically to the schools based upon the superintendent's recommendation makes sense.
So I guess my only point is, I agree that the use for the schools is primary for those educational courses. So, but, if she doesn't need all of that, or if they're, do we need to be so specific to, only earmark it for that? Noting that should be a primary purpose,
Right.
but.
I just think from this agreement, which is an agreement between the town and ComCan, we're tying our own hands. And I have absolutely no objection for that suggested use, but I just don't want to tie our own hands in an agreement. We're almost negotiating against
Julie,
ourselves.
this is the argument I anticipated. It wasn't this argument. The argument I anticipated is, why do you, Board of the Selectmen, have control of this $50,000?
That'll come if we make this change, though.
Well, so I'm trying to
No,
weigh,
I
trying to
understand.
weigh it into the best
Sure,
for the community that we can. And, you know what, maybe having a discussion with the superintendent. I mean, I assume $50,000 a year, you can hire a full-time person to be
Yeah,
in the
that'd be
schools
great.
to do the drug education program. Now, I might be wrong, but I assume you could.
So let's
I
ask
would
her the
just-
question. I think it's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's ask the
Mr. Shea?
superintendent.
Again, I just point out that this is language that the superintendent herself offered.
Yeah.
So I would presume that she would have, that the amount associated with it, since she didn't have any comments on that amount fell in line with programs that she has envisioned for this specific purpose. It's not as though we came up with this language
So,
to impose upon the
Is
superintendent.
there, just to follow this logic then a little bit, is there a direct, does she have there's other drug education programs that the school does. So is there a direct offset of, does she have a budget line that's being offset by, funds coming in? Do we know that?
She has nothing yet, because we don't have this agreement.
Oh, I know
What I
that,
can
but-
say, in order to perhaps close this
Is
discussion,
this 50,000 in addition to whatever she will be allocated, or does it offset what she's already allocated in her
I don't
budget?
think her budget would be reduced based upon this host agreement, if that's what you're asking. But
Yeah.
in order to close this up, Mark can have a
That's- yeah.
separate discussion with her as to
what the number is.
what the number is and what she needs it for.
Perfect.
And hopefully it would not erode her budget. Is that what you're getting at?
No, it'd be fine if there's already some budget that she has in there that,
This could be used as,
to offset some of that, and
Okay.
then our tax rate
yep,
may effectively go down.
yep. Ms. Conley?
Sure.
Do you have other points as well?
I do have a couple of other points. I'm just a little confused about, so I know we have this 3-year term with them.
Yes.
And then at that point, we have the option to renegotiate the agreement. What happens if, just the way these things work, if assuming everything's going fine, I just want to make sure that the agreement is clear, that even if nobody steps forward at the end of the 3 years, that the agreement is in place for so long as they're a tenant at the building, and that they're operating there?
It's not transferable, so it's just for this applicant.
Sure, no, but I'm saying as long as ComCan is operating there, I don't want it to be perceived that the agreement ends
What
at
happens
3
at the end of
years.
3 years if
Right.
nobody
Exactly.
Nobody
Yeah, so-
raises the issue of reopening.
So, well, there is a sentence that was added at the end. So the terms of the current agreement shall remain in full force and effect until any new agreement is put in
Okay.
place.
So therein lies another good question, though. So, that may very well be a great benefit to them, hey, we couldn't renegotiate a new agreement, so these terms continue forever. We don't have to come back to the table, there's no requirement. Should there be a requirement, should this thing absolutely just end after 3 years, and their ability to operate then ends because they don't have, their
Now,
special
I-
permit
I-
is
I
tied
think-
to having a host
I
agreement?
think the zoning board of appeals took care of that for us, because in their conditions, they put as a condition of the special permit, there will be a host agreement negotiated by the Board of Selectmen.
And there is
Correct, but what I'm saying is at the end of this 3-year period,
If they don't have a host agreement, then they're not complying with the special permit.
that's right, so shouldn't this thing end after the 3-year period, and then the town, it can be a benefit to the town then to reopen, to have that
Mr. Shea.
follow-on discussion?
So paragraph 14 also states that this agreement shall terminate at the time that either of the following occur, and the first is the town notifies operator of the town's termination of this agreement. So that is independent of a 3-year time restriction. So we can notify them that we're terminating the agreement, and then if they do not have an agreement, they are then violating the special permit.
So if they do not have an agreement, does that mean that they can't operate there?
According to the
According to
special
the special
permit,
permit.
as a condition of the special permit, they are to negotiate a host agreement with the town.
Okay.
If they don't have a host agreement in the town, I assume, Mr. Bartolini, correct me if I'm wrong, they're in violation of the special permit. So they can't operate.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, sorry to interrupt, but the special permit reads, one of the conditions that the zoning board put in, the special permit shall be contingent upon an executed host community agreement or a document of similar name between ComCan, Inc. and the town of Southborough as approved by the Board of Selectmen. So the special permit is contingent upon there being an agreement.
Okay, but what about so we then have an agreement, say we have one, whenever this thing is done in a few weeks, say we have an agreement. Does that satisfy then this, or what if after 3 years, we don't reach a follow-on agreement, but we had the original agreement? Does that satisfy the ZBA's special permit?
No, this agreement only lasts for 3 years.
No.
It's gotta
Right.
be, it's gotta be renegotiated.
So, but there's
The
a,
terms of it continue in full force and effect.
well, why should they? Shouldn't it just end after 3 years? Should it end after 1 year and let's see how things are going?
It can't end after
Can't
3
open it.
years.
But if they don't do that, then the town, they're not obligated to make payments to the town. And I didn't want, and in negotiating this, I didn't want the town to be in a position to be at a disadvantage to ComCan, where they could sit on renegotiating, and by doing so, we're not receiving the payments.
But they're actually not, don't have the ability to operate after 3 years if they don't come back to the table.
Right, because
And we don't have
they don't comply with the
So-
special permit.
So my point is then, why give them the right to continue operating under this for as long as they want and without, coming to an agreement for a new 3-year term?
So I guess on that respect, I would go back to 61% of the people in this town voted in favor of medical marijuana, and to not then have either party to sit on this after 3 years
Okay.
potentially stops a service that
So you may have been here when.
61% of the people
Right,
could
you may
want.
have been here when I also stated that 61% of the people voted for it as a concept. They didn't necessarily vote for it on Route 9
Correct.
in their town. So we'll find out on Monday night what the, townspeople say about that. But what I'm saying is, why, just for pure negotiating power, why would we allow them to continue this document for 3 years? I mean, after the 3-year period, without anything else in place, without any.
Well, a couple
any-
things. First of all,
any renewal.
shame on the current Board of Selectmen if they don't renegotiate when they know it's time to renegotiate. And the town administrator will certainly give the board advance notice that it's time to renegotiate, number one. Number two, if that provision was not in that, then at the end of this 3 years, they have no further obligation to make payments to the town. But under this way it's written, they have to continue to make payments to the town until the new agreement is written. Third, if there's not a new agreement in place, then they're in violation of the special permit, they have to close down.
Right, so after 3 years, if there's no good faith negotiation on their part, and we don't have a new agreement in place, they have to shut down after
No.
3 years.
No, that this agreement continues.
The way it's presently written, because we are allowing it to continue while those negotiations may or may not take place.
I think we're saying the same thing.
No. So if there wasn't that provision allowing it to continue while negotiations are taking place, then it simply ends after 3 years, and the parties better get together after 2 years and negotiate any renewal so that it starts on year 3.
All right, well, point taken.
end of year three.
I don't see the argument there, but maybe
Well, my
others do.
suggestion is to delete the language that allows it to continue and just have it end at the 3-year period.
I would not agree with that.
If the strongest position for the town may very well be having it end at 3 years and getting them to the table after 2 and negotiating for that renewal period that'll start after 3 years.
But that's what this says.
No, it doesn't.
Next, any other issue, ma'am?
Yes, just a couple more. During the last board meeting and the couple of ZBA meetings, a lot of people came and spoke, voiced some opposition towards this, and we spoke, and ComCan answered a lot of questions, and they also made a lot of promises, restricting potentially hours, talking about the randomness of pickups and deliveries. They talked about limiting certain kinds of edibles and things like that. None of that is addressed in this agreement.
It's all in the special permit. There are 10 conditions in the special permit that talk about operating hours, that talk about the edibles.
Okay.
That's already been done by
Okay,
the ZBA.
I didn't have a chance to review
Okay.
that, so I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed somewhere. And as far as, hold on, I think I had one more point. So it was unclear, and again, I don't know if I've seen the most recent version of this. So if ComCan violates this agreement, I don't recall it being clear that we had, what our remedies were if there was if they didn't comply with any of our agreements. And so I think we should just
Sure,
make
well,
sure
a
it's clear.
couple things. If they don't comply with the host agreement, then they're in violation of the special permit,
Right,
and they're done.
okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Bartolini?
Yes.
All right, I'll have to take a look at that. Okay, I think those were all my questions, but again, I think for me, the most glaring thing was that, to get to that 3% of to get to $500,000, they would have to be making about $17 million. So just thinking about that in the numbers, I think was my biggest concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Barbara Murphy, 202 Cordoval Road. I want to bring us back to the discussion you don't want to have about the schools, the $50,000 going to the schools. One thought crossed my mind. It sounds like, I forget her title, superintendent, thank you. It's brain dead this hour. Johnson was privy to this document, but there's at least 2 other boards in this town or groups in this town that I think would be good recipients from some of that $50,000, not just the schools. One would be the police department, and the other one, the Board of Health.
Yeah, well, Barbara, let me just try to reiterate. The way that it was originally drafted, it was to be discussed between the schools and the police department as to the utilization of that $50,000. Then in discussions with the superintendent, which I thought was important because of the focus
agree.
of the location, the focus of the school children, that I thought that it made sense, and again, I might be wrong, that it made sense to put that money under the control of the superintendent. I agree with you that there are other boards that, in all likelihood, would benefit and have a reasonable relationship to the operation of this facility, but the decision was made, or at least the proposal was made, to let the superintendent control and devise the program that's important to her. And the program that is very important to her now relates to the opioid addiction issue. I agree, I hear what you're saying.
I would also, unless I'm very much mistaken, which is always possible. I would also point to the fact that this 50,000 that's earmarked is in addition to the annual $50,000 payment plus the 3% payment, which is not earmarked and could very well support some of the things that you're talking about.
Well, with one correction, it's not in addition to another annual 50,000. If you, the agreement is 50,000 after year one, and then $50,000 a
right.
year thereafter under paragraph 3. So it's not a double
No,
50,000.
you're right about that. So the first 50 plus the 3% every year is currently unallocated. Is that correct?
That's right. The first 50 plus the 3% goes to the global discussion of the purpose of this agreement.
Okay, I thought there was only one 50,000. I'm sorry. I
Now,
have not read the
it's a
document.
bit confusing.
so-
What it is 50,000 every year. That's one payment. After 1 year, there's an additional 50,000. So there's 50,000. So after year 1, there would be a $100,000 payment, and then it reduces
And
down to 50.
Okay.
But in addition to that, under the 3% of the 500,000, it can go for this. The purpose of this agreement is to assist the town in addressing any public health, safety, and other effects or impacts the facility may have on the town. The town shall use the above referenced payments in its sole discretion, consistent with the purposes of the agreement, which may include allocating a portion of said payments for community wellness programs, a school resource officer, and other efforts and initiatives for the support of the health of the citizens of the town. So,
Perfect. I'm fine.
arguably then, I think it incorporates your concern about
It
some
does.
additional monies flowing to other boards, just not that $50,000 in paragraph 3.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Marnie Houlihan, 26 Clifford. John and Brian, you received a very lengthy email from me. Couple of things I haven't heard. I had asked about the town have recourse for indemnification by the RMD against all acts by the RMD. Has that been included into the new draft language?
It hasn't, and Ms. Houlihan, in all honesty, I did not know what you meant by that language. You were asking the facility to indemnify the town for everything, is what you're, let me just read your comment here. And I'm not sure, let me see what you said, hold on.
The town should have recourse and be indemnified by RMD against all acts by RMD that directly or indirectly affect the town.
Yeah, so all acts by the facility that directly or indirectly affect the town, they're required to indemnify us. I don't understand how they would ever, how anyone would ever agree to that. How would a liquor store agree to that, something of that nature, that if you sell alcohol to someone, then you have to indemnify the town? We don't require that for any package store. How can we require that for this facility, in all fairness?
So we did present quite a bit of data around higher rates of ingestion with regard to the edibles. It was presenting to the zoning board, higher rate of hospitalizations. And so if we do actually have a resource need, how are we going to be paying for all of those resources that are caused by perhaps overdose or accidental ingestion or things that the RMD should have been controlling for?
Do you mean through their negligent acts or omissions?
Yes.
Maybe that's the caveat, Mr. Rooney.
No, I mean, why would they agree to indemnify the town for the sale of their products?
For the their negligent acts or omissions in, regards to the sale. So if they act negligently or they fail to act when they should have acted, and the town is damaged by that, should we not be indemnified for that?
They will never agree to that, Mr. Klein. No business would ever agree to that.
I can pull up 200 documents on this laptop where companies agree to that.
Where a medical marijuana
No, I haven't
facility...
negotiated with any of those.
Okay, well, what I'd urge
So, but
you to do
companies
is to
do agree
review
to it.
the host agreements across the country and show me language where that's in there, because I've never seen it.
Right, and they may not, but the ask is, shouldn't they indemnify the town for their negligent acts or omissions? There's no
Should a
reason
package store indemnify the town?
if they sell alcohol to minors and because of that, the town is damaged in some way, then the town would want to be indemnified for
So
that.
we should require that in all licenses moving forward?
I don't know the answer to that. All I'm hearing is I think that's where she was going, so.
Common in business
Do we ask ComCam for that indemnification, which is, it's not unrealistic to ask for it, and it's not unrealistic to negotiate for it and see where it goes. They may not agree to it. We may not agree to not having it.
I think the difference in flavor here is that we don't sign a host agreement with package stores. This is a mechanism that's unique, and I agree. I tend to agree with you that an unfettered indemnity would never fly. A negligence or gross negligence standard perhaps would. Something we can ask.
All right, if that's the board's pleasure, we will ask them.
And I'll be happy to share some language, John, we could vet.
We will ask for full indemnity for their negligence or gross
Negligent acts
negligence.
or omissions.
What's that?
Negligent acts or omissions.
Okay.
And to that point, I believe we, in this special permit that was issued, they're to be instructing patients to leave the facilities vis-à-vis Route 9 and not go down Deerfoot. One horrible accident that happens on Deerfoot that was caused from an RMD driver, I will say the town will get sued, without a doubt. And if it's my child, I will sue the town. So you might want indemnification.
See, I would just say that I think crosses over to where we won't get it. I mean,
Yeah, we won't get it.
we've asked them and required them to instruct their customers to depart the facility a certain way. If they've done that, and yet their customer disregards that, that's beyond their scope.
It's a common
mean,
business
the
ask.
town-
I'd appreciate you asking them. This is a town document. I think this is in service to protect our town, not necessarily to provide any service for the applicants.
You know, just because we don't, well, I don't have anything. Go ahead.
And then my last comment was Brewster actually came out with a forecast of $255 million at 5 years. So I do think that a 3% or capping it, or even asking for expert counsel who's written host agreements, might be an advantageous route for this Board of Selectmen, just to make sure that we've covered all our bases and done the best what's interest for the town and those people that have elected each and every one of you. So I'd recommend, if there's possibility, to go seek expert counsel who has written host agreements. I know there are several in the state. I would ask that as a townsperson, that it might be worth your while. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? So, oh, yes,
Excuse me,
Mr. Bartolini.
Attorney, one comment in the question Mrs. Willihan stated, and it may be fancy words that you people are using, but when we put the agreement on the police chief, one of the issues that was put there was the fact that if there were issues of children getting involved and the business having mistakes or stuff legally, then the police chief would be reinforcing that and looking into it to see if it needs to have different regulations done or whatever on that. So we did state that it would be an involvement of the police department up front to watch that for the town of Southborough.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Mugridge.
Just a couple of points. I agree with the points made previously that having an interdisciplinary approach to the host agreement funds that are generated, possibly including the superintendent, the police chief, and maybe even the Board of Health, bringing in public health issues that may arise, would create for a better disposition of the funds. I don't know how the mechanism for that could be done.
Well, I think the mechanism is in place based upon the language that's in the agreement.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying broaden it from being just the superintendent.
See, again, the issue that we often face is that if we reserve the authority to ourselves, people have a problem with the selectmen reserving the authority to themselves. In this instance, we tried to allocate the authority and the responsibility to the superintendent based upon our concerns, and perhaps we didn't broaden it enough to include additional interested parties. Point taken, and we will work in that regard to see whether or not the language in paragraph 16 incorporates or allows for the sharing, if you will, of those funds.
Okay. I also think you've done a very good job on this. I had reviewed what was in the packet prior to tonight's meeting. It's evolved since then. This is, maybe not rightly so, but this is a nonprofit, which is why a community agreement is being asked for. Most businesses that come to do business in this town are not asked for entry fees, or I'm not sure what the right word is, but we're not asking grocery stores or restaurants to pay upfront monies for obesity programs, or gas stations to pay monies for safe driving. I think asking this particular business, I realize that it's controversial for many people. A lot of the things being asked for, or what's being put forth for this, are making it a better agreement, but it also shouldn't be used as a way to turn the business away. It's gone through a fair and vetted process, and the things that are being put forth should be in good faith to make it a better business for the town of Southborough, address legitimate concerns, not to have it be a reason to kill the project, to be quite honest with you. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
I just had a chance to look at the, Julie Connolly, 26 Oak Hill Road, sorry. I just had a chance to look at the ZBA special permit decision, and I just want to clarify, and not to be nitpicky, but I am an attorney, so I look at these words. It says, the special permit shall be contingent upon an executed host community agreement. I don't think that says, I think that's different, because assuming we get through this process, we're going to have an executed host community agreement. I think that's different from having an effective host community agreement, because then, again, that gets me back to what happens after 3 years.
After 3 years, if there's no agreement, there's no executed host agreement.
So that was my point earlier on.
Yeah, and
Julie.
I just
You and
don't, I
are
don't think that's
seeing
clear.
the same thing.
To me, that wording doesn't cover that situation. So I don't know where we put it to clarify, but I think that's really important, because I don't think the statement is, oh, if that they're just done if this agreement, if for whatever reason 3 years is up and we don't come back to the table, or we can't renegotiate. I don't think that this language of the ZBA special permit decision says that then they're not able to operate.
That was my point, John.
Yeah, but I think it would be a tremendous dereliction in duty for the next Board of Selectmen after this 3-year period comes up not to acknowledge or to renegotiate this agreement.
So, John, I think
But
what
what's the problem? Why don't we just clarify it up front?
in this host agreement is where we should put it.
That we
I
have, that
swore
we
I
have the
wouldn't
right
do
to
this, but
terminate.
I'm going to make a pitch one more time for my little phrase, which I think solves this entire problem, which is that we reopen after 3 years at the town's option only. And if we decide not to, or if we are asleep and don't, then it just continues.
Yeah, and to Paul's point, we make it perfectly clear that this thing terminates after 3 years.
But-
It's
So,
on-
yeah, no, I think that's right, because what happens if we say,
You don't want to terminate after 3 years?
It ends after 3 years. And then to Mr. Semino's point, it can only be renegotiated if the town wishes to open it up again for an additional term.
Yeah, I wasn't saying the first part. They're two separate things, but I certainly was saying the second part. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the first part.
Listen, there's no pride in authorship here. We can go back to
Okay.
them and get their feedback on it. The reality is, and maybe I didn't make this clear, and if I didn't, I will say it again. Selectman Shea and I, we sat down, we heard the community, we heard people's concerns, and we made an effort to the best of our ability to incorporate as many terms as we could. And then after that, we made even a further, more aggressive presentation to Comcast to get more financial contributions, realizing that regardless of the work product that we produced, at the end of the day, not everybody was going to agree with every sentence in the agreement. At the same time, we tried to do the best job that we could, and we heard the community's concerns, and that's what the document is before you. There were some concerns that were brought up tonight that I believe are very valid concerns. We'll go back to the drawing board with them, we'll run them by them. There are others that I just don't think will fly. Maybe I'll be wrong, but we'll put them forward, but I don't think they're gonna fly. And at the end of the day, we'll come back with a draft agreement at our next meeting with all these incorporations, and we'll then decide on whether to vote for it, and then have town council review the same.
Just to clarify also on the indemnification provision, I think the right way to work that, I understand that a blanket provision might not, is not gonna pass muster, but, you know, this is an agreement between the town and ComCan, so any costs incurred, any claims or damages brought by any third parties that, against the town, I think should be covered in indemnification
Should we do
by
those
ComCan.
for liquor stores too?
This is different. This is a host agreement.
Yeah.
They're asking us to come here. This is a risk we're taking. And while we're negotiating this agreement, why would we not do that? If you know, especially if you look at the scope of this, I mean, marijuana is not even really legal federally. And while I understand the direction that it's going in, what if the next administration, something changes and all of a sudden it's not, and they start enforcing things? And what if somebody then comes and tries to shut us down and we're gonna incur costs for that? You know, those are the kinds of things that I'm
But
thinking.
the risks to the town are the same. The risks are the same. Selling to a perhaps.
No, alcohol is not illegal on the
Well,
federal
just
level.
let me finish my statement. The risk to the town is the same, though. You sell alcohol, you sell marijuana, and as a result of that sale, an accident happens.
That's not what I'm advocating for.
What are you advocating for?
I'm saying that if a third party makes a claim against the town because of something as a result of us having, as a result of the host agreement, or as a result of us having them there, then they indemnify the town for damages that we incur.
So just as a result of a violation of the host agreement, you want full indemnity?
No. That's not what I'm saying. Sorry.
Well, if there's an accident on Deerfoot Road, then the victim of that accident is the third party you're talking about. So I think you are saying what he's saying.
So if the town incurs costs for that.
Right.
So if the victim of that accident somehow sues the town and says, town, you
Somehow? I mean, they will, right?
Sues the
Oh,
town.
you let them operate, and
Right.
now they hit my
Right.
car. They definitely will sue the town. Ms. Houlihan said she herself
But
would.
why are we putting ourselves at risk unnecessarily to incur those costs?
It's
You know,
not the result of negligence of ComCan if they post the driver, and I've
That's
agreed,
why-
I've
that's
agreed
why-
to the negligence standard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one way to address,
I would think in a typical situation, and maybe I'm wrong, but a victim would sue ComCan. not
you know, the
town.
easiest way.
But if they do sue the town, then why would we not want our costs indemnified for that?
The easiest way to.
I do a lot of agreements. I put an indemnification agreement in every,
The
in
easiest
every
way
agreement I
the
do.
easiest way to address this is to have ComCan put the town as an additional insured on their insurance policy. If we're an additional insured, then we're protected. We don't need any indemnity language. If we're an additional insured on their insurance policy, any claim against the town is going to be their insurance company's
The
obligation.
only issue there, John, is usually it's capped.
It's
at
capped,
X
and it
amount.
doesn't
We can
include legal
insist upon
fees.
an amount.
I think we're going down the right path.
We can insist upon an amount to be added as an additional insured under their policy.
We don't know what that amount is, but yeah, we can talk about an amount if, it should be unlimited, but then if we need to, we can just start negotiating an amount.
Yeah, that
And
would-
it should include legal fees as well.
Yep,
Anything else?
thank you.
Mr. Bartolini?
The question that she made on the statement that was on the thing today, that decision has not been properly placed on there yet. It didn't get done until late this afternoon and get filed and everything.
What do you mean? I thought it was filed with the clerk's office today.
Say it again?
I thought it was filed with the clerk's office today.
Yes, it was. It was filed with the clerk, but I don't think it got on the computer line thing yet or not.
Wait a minute, wait a
So
minute.
that's
wait a
the other one. So the new one, because it's
Wait-
worded a
wait
little
minute,
different than
wait-
what she
wait-
said.
Wait a minute, computer line, what do you mean?
Well, whatever.
The town's website.
what is that, Ms. Fana?
The town's website?
Yeah, on the website. It most
Wait a minute,
likely,
wait,
I don't think it got put on there this afternoon.
Wait a minute. If it was officially filed with the clerk's office, then I assume it's officially filed.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It's all,
So whether it's on the website or not is somewhat secondary, correct?
right, that's what I'm saying, because she said she just looked it up on the website.
No, I have it, the one that's signed by you on the phone.
As of when?
As of April 5th, 2016, today.
So does that have a
So
date
it's-
stamp
it's-
on the front page?
So it's on, then it's on the computer line.
Okay.
It's
All
on
right,
the computer
thank you.
line, Mr. Bartolini.
All right,
Anything else?
none here.
Do we have anything else on our agenda?
Did we miss?
Public comment. Any further public comment? Not seeing any. Thank you for that. The board needs to enter into executive session. We need to discuss the collective bargaining agreements with various unions in town. So pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Large Capital A, Section 21, the board will be entering executive session and not returning to open session. The issue to be discussed is the collective bargaining agreements with town unions, which falls under exemption number 2, requires a roll call vote. Rooney, aye.
Samino, aye.
Blenda, aye.
Shay, aye.
We're in executive session. Thank you all.
What's a large capital?